Yo everyone, and welcome back to my channel. So today I am going to be doing a review for you on the brand new Anastasia Beverly Hills Norvina palette. Now this is got kind of the same name as the last Norvina palette, but this one's actually called Norvina Collection Pro Pigment Palette Volume 1, meaning there will be a Volume 2. First off, this is something that kind of just dropped out of nowhere. This is what it actually looks like itself. Very soon after the Jackie Eyeliner palette. A lot of people will maybe bypass that altogether and go straight to this because it is so much larger, and obviously you get so many more shades than you did with that. I think that this was actually meant to be released next year in the spring, forgive me if I'm wrong, but for some reason they decided to bring it forward and release it a couple of weeks after the Jackie Eyeliner palette. Not even in the couple of weeks, because in the UK, the Jackie Eyeliner palette released a little bit later. Now it's available everywhere, and like 2 days later this was available. So I actually got my Jackie Eyeliner palette and this one at the same time in the post. I've not reviewed that yet, forgive me. I just got this the other day and I wanted to try this out first. Exactly the reasons I've given why I think that they released this a little bit sooner. They should have maybe waited a couple of weeks. But anyway, by the by. Now this costs in the UK a whopping £68. This is the most I have ever spent on an eyeshadow palette. Now, why did I decide to spend so much money on an eyeshadow palette without knowing whether it was good or not, without even checking it out in stores, because it hasn't come out in any stores in the UK yet? Because it's Anastasia Beverly Hills and I knew it would be excellent. Also because Norvina is like the president, the creative director. I knew that she would release something that is absolutely excellent. Not gonna lie, this gets a straight 10 out of 10. Before I've even opened it and showed it to you properly, it's a 10, a solid 10. Everybody who uses this will absolutely love it. Now first off, it comes in just a cardboard box, and on the back is actually quite useful because there is a breakdown on here for what products in here are eyeshadows and which ones are pressed pigments. So it's to make you guys aware. Now this is also called a Pro Pigment Palette because it's something that is useful for a lot of working makeup artists. It even says on here, 25 deluxe sized high performance shades for professional grade artistry with maximum payoff. So if you are a makeup artist and you are looking for something to add to your kit, something like this would definitely come in handy if you've got that extra money to spend, because £68 is not cheap. Now, for the first time, they've come out in a palette which the packaging is not cardboard. This is completely plastic, as you can hear. So it's a lot more durable, but it's also a lot more heavy. So this is not something that I would typically call travel friendly. For example, in a couple of days, I'm going to Canada. I'm not taking this with me. The weight of this alone will add too much to my weight allowance. So I'll be taking something a lot smaller and lighter. So this is what it looks like. Let me just show it to you up close properly. So this is what all of the eyeshadows look like. Absolutely stunning, amazing. And then it's got a really huge mirror on the top as well. And yes, before you ask, I am using this on my eyes today. I'm actually going to be running a tutorial as I speak, so you're going to see me hear my voice, but I'll be fading off into showing you how I created this look in case you are interested in seeing how it works and how the colors work, how the shadows work, how the payoff is, etc. So altogether, like they said, there are 25 deluxe size shades. The shade range is absolutely massive. This is a cool and warm toned palette, but I would definitely say it leans more towards the cool tones. I mean, you've got a lot of purples and pinks, then you've got a couple of 1 or 2 blues, you've got a black, and then you've got some reds, oranges and yellows. There aren't any really warm shades like a warm caramel. There is kind of a mustardy shade and then a reddish brown, but generally the shades are all kind of geared in one direction, and these are the kind of shades that Norvina herself, obviously, as we know, absolutely loves. And these are the ones that she wanted to put out in Volume 1. Who knows what Volume 2 may look like? Exciting. Now, when I swatch these later, I will explain to you which ones are the pressed pigments and which ones are the normal eyeshadows. Now, the reason why I've decided to give this a 10 out of 10 is the quality is absolutely excellent. Not a single shade that I have swatched, played with or put on my eyes has let me down. Every single one performs to the maximum capacity that it can in terms of pigment, blendability, quality and the way that it shows up on my medium skin tone. I am slightly tanned at the moment as well. Just for reference, in this video I'm wearing the new Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush foundation and my shade is in 7. I don't know what I am in ABH foundation yet because I wanted to try out a couple of shades in Selfridges, but unfortunately the one that Norvina says that I am, because I follow her on Twitter, and somebody said that they're an NC40 in MAC, and she gave the shade name, I can't remember what it is exactly, 350C I think she said, is perfect apparently for NC40. But that appears to be the only foundation shade which has not launched. I mean, they've launched all shades except that one is out of stock everywhere, meaning it's just not launched at all. So I can't even tell you what shade I am in ABH foundation, but obviously stay tuned. When I go to Sephora in Canada, I will check them out. Anyway, back to the shades. Excellent quality. Not forgetting that pressed pigments are very different to normal eyeshadows. They are a lot more powdery, they kick up a lot more powder. A little bit goes a long way because they are pigments which have been completely pressed and then just kind of smushed in and set. It's not quite the same as eyeshadows, meaning that a little bit goes a really long way. You need to tap off your brush if you have gone in a little bit too heavily by accident, otherwise you will get fallout on your face. The shimmery shades are absolutely stunning. There's not a single shade here which I can say is bad. And I'm talking about the shimmery shades. Some of them are pressed pigments, some of them aren't, but that's the same with a lot of the matte shades as well. All of the ones which are not shimmery are completely matte. There's no like satiny kind of shade. It is a very definitive matte or shimmery shade, and that's it. Now, I'm sure a lot of you who've got a deeper skin tone are probably wondering, will this work for me? I would say yes. Now, for those of you that may decide to order it off of Anastasia Beverly Hills website, which is what I did when it launched on Bank Holiday Monday, you get a free eyeshadow primer as well. So this is their new eyeshadow primer. I'd never used this before, and it comes out completely kind of a white on the eyes, which means that it will blank out your eyes completely no matter how fair or deep you are, and that will make it a lot easier for a lot of these shadows to show up on your eyes. I know some of you may be thinking like this yellow or this mustard shade, will it show up on my deep skin tone? If you use a white base underneath it, 100%. However, the majority of the shades are quite deep in tone. They're not light. You can see that for yourself. There's like really hefty purples in here, really strong, vibrant shades. This is a very strong palette. This is not a muted palette by any means. So therefore, if you are of the faint of heart, I would not purchase this because it won't be for you. You can definitely create very soft looks as well. Again, if you use a little bit of some of these shadows, a little bit goes a really long way, and you can sheer them out and then build them up as you see fit. Personally, I think this is an amazing palette. I think so many of you will love this if these are your kind of shades. I personally am really happy that I bought this, and I think it's absolutely gorgeous. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to swatch all of these on my medium skin tone. Forgive me because there are quite a lot of shades and I hope that I've got enough arm space to show it to you. I will do one swipe of each shadow and then I will tell you which ones are shadows and which ones are also pressed pigments. They've also got names like A1, A2, A3, A4, which I think is supposed to be more from an artistry point of view. Makeup artists don't care about names like Sugar Summer and Velvet Lavender. You know, names like that. They're quite straightforward with their names. If you think of brands like Makeup Forever, they do similar things because they were a brand that initially started for makeup artistry, and that is what Norvina has tried to do with this kind of palette. So there are no fancy schmancy names, it's very simple. So I'm going to go through all of these with you right now and let you know what my thoughts are, and so that you can see how they show up on medium skin tone as well. So this first shade here is called A1. A1 is just a normal eyeshadow and it is a beautiful baby shimmery lavender color. I'm using this on my tear duct. This next shade here is called A2. A2 is one of the pressed pigments. It's such a gorgeous purple shade with like a hint of pink mixed into it. I'm using this on my lid again today. This shade here is called A3. A3 is also a pressed pigment. It's a much deeper and slightly warmer shade than A2. Again, incredibly pigmented, easy to blend. This shade is called A4. A4 is an eyeshadow, and oh my god you guys, I actually used this yesterday. It is the most stunning bronzy gold ever. This is like your typical Asian, South Asian kind of gold. So my South Asian ladies out there, you will love this color. This shade is called A5. This is a pressed pigment. It is a warm toned bright pink shade. Just to bear in mind you guys, this is the kind of shade that will stain your eyelids. So bear that in mind when you're applying a base, and make sure you use an oil-based makeup remover to remove every little scrap. Otherwise the next day your eyes will look like you got pink eye. This shade is called B1. Just to go a little bit off topic here, you thought I was joking. Look at that. My finger's stained. I've actually tried to remove it and it won't come off. B1 is a gorgeous bright lilac shade, which is also pressed pigment. I'm using this in my crease today. I used that in my crease, and then I used that in my crease as well. They work really nicely together. This shade is called B2. B2 is an eyeshadow. It's a metallic shimmery one. It's a bronze shade with like a hint of rose to it. It's absolutely stunning. This shade here is called B3. Okay, so B3 is one of the first shimmery metallic shades, which is actually a pressed pigment. It's a gorgeous kind of rosy pink shade. I'm not sure if you can tell that this one is a lot more intense than the other shimmery ones, and that is one of the reasons why it is a pressed pigment. Pressed pigments are a lot more intense than normal eyeshadows. This next shade is called B4. B4 is a cool toned violet shade, and it is also a matte pressed pigment. Look how intense that is, you guys. So intense. One swipe only. This next shade here is called B5. B5 is also pressed pigment, and this one is more of a cool toned sort of plum shade. There are some very slight shimmers in it, but I don't really think it's something that is transferable onto the eyes, because even on my arm it started off thick here, and then by there the shimmers had kind of disappeared. This shade here is called C1. So C1 is basically a straight up matte white shade. This is not a pressed pigment, it's an eyeshadow. I found this useful to use all over my eyes to kind of set the primer, and that's about it really. The next shade is called C2. Right, so C2 is a metallic yellow gold shade. It's a normal eyeshadow. It's absolutely stunning. I've used this on my tear duct and all I can say is wow. This next shade is called C3. C3 is a really intense metallic eyeshadow. It's such a gorgeous kind of rose, deep rose gold shade. And it's got like little bits of gold sparkles in it. It's absolutely stunning, really intense. This shade here is called C4. So C4 is a pressed pigment. It's a gorgeous kind of mauvey, plummy sort of shade. I'm actually using this on my lower lash line. It's very intense. This shade here is called C5. So C5 is a pressed pigment. It's a burnt reddish brown shade. It's absolutely gorgeous. This shade here is called D1. Alright, D1 is a pressed pigment, probably one of the poorest performing ones. Look at how it's shown up on my skin. But then to be fair, I wore this on my eyes and I used it with the primer and it was perfectly fine and very vibrant. It might be because it's on the crease of my arm, which tends to sweat that area. So it might be that it's kind of coming up a bit weird, but it's not one of my favorites. This next shade is called D2. D2 is a shimmering bluish purple shade and it is a pressed pigment. It's absolutely gorgeous. This next shade is called D3. D3 is a pressed pigment and it is a primary red color, meaning it's come from the proper color spectrum, and that is what a true primary red looks like. It's absolutely intense and so much better than the primary yellow. This also is the kind of shade that will stain your eyelids. This next shade is called D4. This one is a pressed pigment and it is described as a primary blue, but it's also got like blue sparkles in here. This next shade is called D5. It's a pressed pigment and obviously it is a classic matte black, very, very intense. This shade here is called E1. This one is a pressed pigment and it is described as a peachy shimmery gold. I absolutely love this. This is actually what I'm wearing on my lid in today's video. This shade here is called E2. God, I'm running out of arm space. Alright, this is also a pressed pigment and it is a kind of pastel bright orange shade. Gorgeous and will also stain your eyes. This shade here is called E3. E3 is a normal eyeshadow and it is like a mustard yellow. I absolutely love this. I wore this yesterday. It's gorgeous on brown skin. This next shade here is called E4. E4 is a bright neon orange pressed pigment, and again a eye and face stainer. And last but not least is E5 here on the end. I'm really sorry I've run out of space, but thank God it's the last one. This is like an oxblood colour. It's a pressed pigment and it's absolutely gorgeous. So let me just run through all of them. Here you go. Oh my God, my arm's aching. Wow, that was a lot of eyeshadows. I've got it all over my t-shirt, but I've managed to wipe it all off with Vaseline and with face wash. Don't ask, it's all I had handy. But that's just see how my fingers are stained? This one here in particular. So that's just another thing to bear in mind, that the really bright ones are going to stain your eyes. So make sure that you apply an appropriate primer underneath, and make sure that you use an oil-based makeup remover to take it off. Otherwise, well, you've been warned. Anyway, I absolutely love this palette, and to summarize, what else can I say? It's gorgeous. If these are your kind of shades, definitely go for it. If you're a makeup artist, you will not regret it. The shades in here are so intense. They're so buttery soft as well, so easy to blend. I've had no issues blending out any of the eyeshadows that I've used, and I have used, I'd say, the majority of them. They're absolutely excellent. So that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed my review of the new Norvina Volume 1 palette. I'm very interested to see what Volume 2 may be. And I'm actually wearing Anastasia Beverly Hills lipstick. I think it's Catnip with some gloss on top. That's it. And that's it. So if you've got any comments or questions about the palette, if you're interested in buying it, let me know below. Other than that, I hope you guys are wonderful and great, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.